So your task is to make a journal to keep track of the characters' decisions that they made based on their various loyalties. I'm going to be giving you certain scenes, and whether you're reading from Zoom or in person, you're going to add to your chart all of the following, and you're going to do it color coded. As I go over these, colors, color code with me. So red. Red is a character and his or her loyalty partner labeled loyalty, along with a decision based on that loyalty. So it would be like blank shows loyalty to blank when they blank, and that's the action or choice or decision that they made. Your orange, and if you notice, this is all rainbow paragraphs. So what you're doing is you're basically writing a bunch of rainbow paragraphs in preparation for your final, which is an essay, which will then allow you to use this basically as a rough draft. So your red is your loyalty partner. Orange, just like with regular rainbow paragraph, orange is how you give background for the quote. You're going to contextualize what just happened. You're not going to say what's about to happen. I don't need to know what's about to happen. You're going to tell me that in the quote. You need to say what just happened. And when I'm going over how to do all this stuff, let me tell you a secret. It has nothing to do with Romeo and Juliet. It has nothing to do with loyalty journals. It actually has nothing to do with freshman English. I'm teaching you how to write a paragraph for the rest of your life. For the rest of your gosh darn life. You will always be able to use the fact that you need to contextualize quotes with what happened previously. And you'll always need to try not to say what's about to happen, but what happened just before in order to set the scene. Who's talking to whom? What are they talking about? Why are they talking about? Under what circumstance? Whether you are going to be writing about characters in the play, or when you're my age and taking master's classes and you have to write about, peer-reviewed journals, you're still introducing a quote, right? I talk about quotes that aren't introduced. I call them little baby orphan quotes, because it's little orphan quotes that have been left there all on their own, not introduced. No one's contextualized them. Nobody knows what's going on. There's little baby orphan quote. I just want to take care of it. Somebody tell me who it is. Who's talking? What are they talking about? Why are they talking? When is this happening? So orange allows your quote to not be a little orphan quote, and instead give it a chance to have context, a history, background. So you might say your quote is when Lady Capulet, remember after the fight, she's like, oh, where's Romeo? Saw you him today? Right, glad I am. He was not at this fray. A bad orange, right, would be like, we see this when Lady Capulet wonders where Romeo is and says that she's glad he was not at this fray. Okay, well, you just gave away the entire quote. Hashtag spoiler alert. Also, what was the point of saying that? Because the quote is going to literally say that exact thing, and then your blue is going to paraphrase that. So then you're going to be saying the same thing 3 times. Oh my goodness. Instead, your orange needs to be the prior actions that built up to her saying this. We see this when, after the Montagues and the Capulets had gotten in trouble for fighting yet again in the town square, loved ones look for other loved ones. Lady Capulet. Oh, where's Romeo? Saw you him today, right side I am. He was not at this fray. Here we see that Lady Capulet is relieved that her son Romeo wasn't involved in the bloody battle that the prince so admonished. This illustrates that her loyalty is more to her own son and not to the Capulets as a gang, because she's more concerned about his individual well-being as opposed to like who won or lost the battle. Bam, rainbow paragraph. Y'all are hard to impress, I swear. My goodness. Oh, good. Okay, you know what? Thank you for saying that, because honestly, I didn't think about that. Now, I'm just gonna think that under every single one of your masks right now, you're like this. I find myself in stores and stuff, I'll like mutter to myself, or I'll be like licking my lips or like you know, like doing a funny face. And then I'm like, good, what am I gonna do when we don't have to wear masks anymore? It's gonna be so hard to like, I'll be like, and I'll be like, like grinding my teeth. And then it's like, we look so normal with our masks on. Who knows? Maybe I'll just always wear a mask. It's probably best to just keep my emotions covered. So, okay, good. But yeah, you're all smiling. Got it. I love it. Thank you. Your yellow is obviously the quote. We talked about that. We'll talk about how to write the quote shortly, so don't worry too much about that. Your green looks weird, right? It looks funny, huh? That's because you're used to seeing like this. Oh, well, not that. That'd be a long book, right? But you're used to seeing the author's last name next to the page number. But in Shakespeare, that's considered déclassé, very gauche. We know it's Shakespeare, honey. You don't need to say it. Don't ask me why. That's what I learned in college. That's just how it is. So you never put Shakespeare and then the lines because it's assumed that Yadoy, it is Shakespeare, and therefore it's considered kind of trashy to put Shakespeare in your citation because like yeah, we know it's Shakespeare is what your college professor would say. Okay, so don't put his name, just the act, the scene, and the line. And I want to show you guys this because take out your books if you have them. You guys have your books, right? You went and got them a while ago. Shirley, borrow this one. Did you never get a book? Because you were, I think you were gone. You know, you were gone for a bit. So today after school or something, go to the textbook room. Do you know where the textbook room is? It's in the main wing by the walkers. Yeah, okay. And there's like a plexiglass window you walk up to and ask for a Romeo and Juliet. This is going to be very helpful. It's such a cool ring. Oh, that's a good question. Is there blue tape on yours? Oh, if yours has blue tape, yeah, you could definitely do that. I think that was probably just left over from the last person who was smart enough to do that. Back pre-COVID when there was, so many people, Brady, you're so funny. You see what he said? He's also been like dead for 500 years, so no one's gonna punish you if you don't credit him properly. Oh, it's so funny, Nick. That's so funny. Yeah, okay. So what I was gonna say is on how you find the different acts, because as you can see, I provide all of the acts for you that you're going to be analyzing. And this is kind of weird because you'll not be given page numbers. You'll be given act, line. Let me go around and show you. You'll have your book over there. So you act, line. The act, act one, scene one. Oh no, I need act one, scene two. And then the lines are here. And that's where it goes. Oh, you did? Okay. Okay, good. And then, yeah, I wish I had more extra, but no. So you do the act, and you have the scene, and the line. So you have to kind of like a dictionary flip through until you get to specific. Just get past all the insert stuff, and then, act, scene. So we'll just keep going, and all the elements will be the act. 4, 5, line 1, 6, 0, whatever. And you'll just find it that way. But yeah, you have to kind of flip like a dictionary until you get to the right number and then count down. Sometimes it's confusing because there's 2 acts on one page, like one is ending and one is beginning. So so you just got to kind of look around. And so the quotes I'll always give you. The citations, you're lucky because you'll really have them already. They're going to be right next to the checkoff boxes. The blue is going to be your line for line translation. Remember, you guys did the sonnets that were line for line translation? It's the same thing. So you'll just be putting the sonnets into your own words. I'm sorry, putting the poetry into your own words and not repeating any words. That's going to be your blue. So make sure you underline your blue. Make sure you've underlined your yellow and your green. And then your purples. There's 3 purples. You're going to talk about what the quote demonstrates about who is loyal to whom and why they are loyal to them. Basically, you're just saying like, oh, Romeo thinks so-and-so is hot, so he's loyal to her. You might use sentence starters like this shows or this illustrates. Your second purple will be an explanation of what's the short-term consequence of this decision. Like, what does this decision cause to happen? And you might use sentence starters like this leads to or this causes. And then your last purple is going to be a prediction. What do you think is going to happen? So you might say Romeo might, Juliet could, whatever it is. So here's a schedule of the loyalty entries. The one that we're going to be doing today is the one that I made really big here, but we're not going to start that quite yet. But I wanted to show you that I give you all the entries so that you don't have to worry about finding the quotes. You can just go straight to the quotes, right? You don't have to worry about picking a quote because I've told you which ones. Now, there's 10 listed here, but I will drop the 2 lowest entry grades. So essentially, you can skip 2 if you so desire. And if you have an IEP or 504, you can skip 4 of the lowest. You can skip 4. So essentially, I will drop the lowest graded entries so you can skip 4, but you have to make sure that the others are done fully and to the outline, right? Because if I'm dropping the lowest 4 grades, if those lowest 4 grades are 0, but then you also didn't do so hot on some of the other ones, then you're not really getting your full credit. So kind of think of it as like a freebie, as like wiggle room, but don't try not to intentionally skip any and use it more as a last minute emergency. Or maybe you just didn't get that scene and so you just didn't do too well on it. Maybe you got a 3 out of 10. Well, great, I can drop that as long as you're doing some of your other ones. So really, you kind of have to pick how you want to break that down. But if you have an IEP or 504, I'll drop the 4 lowest grades. And if you don't, I will drop the 2 lowest grades. Okay, so I'm going to go over the sample loyalty entry after I go over the fill in the blank outline, because I think the template will make more sense once you color code it. So your template is what is the majority of the packet that makes it so thick. And the template allows you to have everything really like organized. Your sentence starters are right there. Everything is super just like clear as I think I can make it. So let's color code the template. Red is blank shows loyalty to blank when he or she decides to blank. Orange is we see this when blank, and you must say who is speaking to whom and the context. So you should be going through right now. This is page 4 of your packet. Looks like this. You should be going through and color coding this. Now your yellow and your blue, you'll see that you'll need a lot of yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, and make sure you color code all of that. As you can see, you'll write line for line and you'll translate line for line, just like the sonnets. But instead of them being side by side, they're one underneath another. So you'll want to color that back and forth. So you should have your pens out. You should be coloring, right? You haven't even opened your bag, but we're on like the second or third page. So as I've been going over this, as I said, you're supposed to be coloring, following along, color coding them. Right now we're on the 4th page and we're color coding red. We did orange and then yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue. And then at the very end, you have your green. And then here's where I kind of messed up, and it sucks because it looks kind of complicated, but it's pretty easy to fix, but I want you to kind of watch carefully. So there is no black for this one. Like there shouldn't be. I deleted that because it was too complicated. So cross out the word black and then cross out the long-term consequence of this decision because you're not doing that either. And then what you're basically going to do is your prediction, that is your third purple. So you could just write purple 3 right here, or you could draw a line. So basically, there's just 3 purples. There's not 3 purples and then black. That was too complicated. So your first purple, your second purple stays the same. But your third purple, you can just cross out everything that comes after purple 3 and just write prediction. And that's what your third purple is your prediction. Does that make sense? So you should have color coded the template, but I'm going to give you a couple more minutes to do that. And then we'll go over the sample, which is on page 3. This is what it should look like, kind of blue, black, blue, yellow, blue, yellow, blue, yellow. And then if you didn't get to color code the first page with the directions, make sure you do that as well on sorry, the second page, I guess, the one that says loyalty journal worth 160 points. You should make sure you make these color coded as well. So have you done that? You did that? Okay. So you should have this color coded and you should have the template color coded. Now I'm going to go over the sample because I think this will make a lot more sense now that you've gotten the directions and now that you've seen where you'll be filling in the blanks. Now I'm going to show you what an actual loyalty journal would look like. Okay. So say we are using a quote from 1.2, and this is the part that you've already read. Remember when Benvolio, he's trying to convince Romeo to go to the Capulet's ball to examine other beauties. And Romeo says, when the devout religion of mine eye maintains such falsehood, then turn tears to fire. And those who often drown could never die. Transparent heretics, be burnt for liars. One fairer than my love, the all-seeing sun never saw her match since the first world begun. So that's the quote, right? And so in theory, like that would be the quote that you copied down, but obviously you're not going to because this is on page 3 of your packet. What I want you to do right now is color code this with me so that as I go through the different colors, you're color coding it. So color code the yellow. Why did we start with the yellow? Because we always start with the yellow. The yellow is our anchor. The yellow is everything. We don't really know what we're going to say until we have our evidence. So don't try to write a red and figure out who's loyal to whom and what decision is made. Don't do that until you've copied out the quote and you've paraphrased the quote, because that by that time you actually understand what's going on. It's not some abstract, hazy thing. So how would I paraphrase this? Remember, your blue should try to not use any of the words in yellow. I sometimes am guilty of that. He's next period, right? No? Me too, because there's, hold on, let me just check. And so you want to really make sure that you always start with the yellow because the yellow is the heart of the quote. Nope, he's second period. I mean, he's this period. Could you let him in? Sorry, somehow I got my screen's got flipped. Oh, there we go. Gavin, right now we're going over the loyalty journal that you got last class. We're going over the sample loyalty entry, which is on page 3. And everyone has like markers or colored pencils from home or like your, siblings' crayons or something. And you guys are color coding along with me. And this is the packet that I gave you guys last class. Okay. So then how I would translate that would be like, when my eye's truthfulness tells me such lies about the beauty of another woman, then burn them in their sockets. And these eyes, who are always encased in tears but never drown, transparent, those horrible liars, be burnt for lying. One lady more beautiful than Rosalind, the sun who sees everything, has never seen a match to Rosalind's beauty since Earth began. So obviously my blue isn't rhyming. My blue doesn't sound as beautiful. It just sounds beautiful. Get it? But it's just your own words, right? Like, how would you say these words in modern English? Put in your own words what the character is saying. That's what your blue is. Just like in the sonnet, you're putting it into your own words. Then your purples are going to, so now that you've done, sorry, wrong order. Now that you've done your yellows, you've done your blue, now you can go back up and do your red, right? Who's being loyal to whom in this? Well, Romeo is showing loyalty to his crush Rosalind when he decides that he should go to the Capulet ball, not to check out other women, but in order to possibly see her, the lover who never was. So in this quote, where Romeo's saying, burn my eyes out if I ever see anyone more beautiful than Rosalind, he is really saying, I am loyal to Rosalind. So that's your loyalty pair. Romeo is loyal to Rosalind. And then what decision does he make based on that loyalty? Well, he goes to the ball. He wouldn't have gone to the ball unless he had seen her name on the guest list. Remember when the servant couldn't read the guest list and he was like, I pray you, sir, can you read? And Romeo's like, yeah, mine own misery and my fortune. But then he actually ends up helping him read it and he sees that Rosalind's on the list. Oh my God, she's gonna be there. Maybe I could try to, sweet talk her again. And so he decides to go to the ball because of that. So you say Romeo shows loyalty to his crush Rosalind when he decides to go to the Capulet ball. And then you give background, again, not what the quote is about, but what happened right before the quote that would cause them to be having this discussion. We see this when Benvolio is trying to convince him to check out other ladies at the Capulet ball, but Romeo only has interest in Rosalind. So now we've given background, we know who is talking to whom, and we know about what. Your green, you'll already have like on the list, so that'll be easy to copy down. And then your purples. This shows that Romeo, even though he knows the feeling isn't reciprocated, is only interested in pursuing Rosalind. This loyalty leads to the action of Romeo going to the ball, infuriating Tybalt and meeting Juliet. Because remember, had Romeo never gone to the ball, he would have never met Juliet. And remember last class when he first saw Juliet? Oh, who is that lady who touches yonder knight's hand? Oh, she teaches the torches to burn bright. Oh, for nay, I've never seen true beauty until this night. Well, he would have never seen her had he not been so sprung off of Rosalind that he was desperate to go to the ball to maybe try to get her again. Well, had he not seen Juliet and started talking to himself like a crazy person, Tybalt would have never heard him. Remember when Tybalt overheard Romeo? Who is this villain who comes to fleer and scorn at our solemnity? Hold me back, fear me not. To strike him dead, I hold it not a sin. So he is like, this fool showed up to my party, and he now is like doubly offended. I hated Romeo already, but he's trying to crash my uncle's party? Oh, heck no, it's on. But then remember, Capulet, he was like, is this my party or yours? Go to, boy. I say go to. You are a saucy boy. I love that. You're a saucy boy. It's like you're a naughty boy, but it just sounds so funny. I'll use that for my son. Brandon, you're being a saucy boy. And so remember that his uncle, is Capulet. He's like the head of the gang in the old generation. But Tybalt, he's the young Capulet. He's the one who's like equal to Romeo in that Romeo's the head of the Montagues, Tybalt's the head of the Capulets. So he sees his arch enemy at his party. Oh, heck no. So that then you'll see later causes some major issues too. So the whole point of this loyalty journal is for us to go back and see whose fault really was it? What were the actions? What were the loyalties that led up to the lover's suicide? Because it can all be traced back. And that's what we're going to be doing in the loyalty journals. The great thing is, as you do these, because I've given you really specific ones to do, and you don't have to worry about like finding good quotes, I've given you them, you are basically writing your rough draft for your loyalty essay. And ultimately, what you write in this journal, you'll be able to pick and choose for your final. So it's going to really be helpful, and this will also allow you to stay engaged in the play. So by now, you should have color-coded 3 pages, the directions, the sample, and the outline. And every time you use a new outline, you need to color code it, guys, okay? Now, you don't have to write in color, but you could if you have flare pens or those nice thin Sharpies, or you could just write in pen or pencil and then underline it or highlight it or whatever. Now, if you want to do it digital because you're group 3, I'm fine with that. But everyone else, I'd prefer you do it. If you're going to do it digital, do it on Google Docs so that you can access it no matter what. So if you're worried that it's going to be messy or something, upload this to talk to me and we'll upload it to Google Docs and make a nice outline, because I don't know how some people, if they're going to be able to write in the small margins of the lines. So today we're going to be starting our first one, which is 1.3.85 to 92. To make things go faster, I will tell you that is on page 39. And this occurs right after the nurse and Lady Capulet are talking to Juliet and trying to convince her to meet Paris, and Paris wants to marry you, and oh, why a man, lady? Such a man is all the world. Oh, he's a man of wax. And so Lady Capulet, and these are the lines you'll be copying down, translating, and then analyzing in your purple and introducing in your red and your orange. What say you? Can you love the gentleman? This night you shall behold him at our feast. Read over the volume of young Paris's face, and find delight writ there with beauty's pen. Examine every married lineament, and see how one another lends content. And what obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margins of his eyes. Now, I'm going to kind of tell you what this means ahead of time so you have a preview, so that going into it, you kind of know what to look for. So remember, Lady Capulet, she's like, do you want to meet Paris? Okay, well, you're going to meet him. You're going to meet him at this party. What say you? Can you love the gentleman? What do you think? You think you can love him? Well, tonight you're going to meet him. You're going to behold him at our feast. I want you to read over the volume of young Paris's face and find beauty writ there. Find a light writ in beauty's pen. So she's like, I want you to look at Paris's face, and I want you to see how it's like someone took a pen that was made for beauty and drew his face. I want you to, and this is on page 39, starting at line 85, I want you to examine every married lineament and see how one another lends content. Say you don't know what the word lineament means, you know the word line, right? If I say examine every line on his face, I'm saying like, look at his face in detail, right? Look at every bit and see how one another lends content. See how each feature on his face goes with his other features, right? Isn't it so lovely how his jawbone offsets his eyebrows, offsets his eyes, offsets his brow? Basically saying like, look at his perfect face. See how beauty drew his face perfectly. Look at every line. See how they go together. And this is the last 2 lines. What obscured in this fair volume lies, find written in the margins of his eyes. Forget the word margin, find written in his eyes. You've heard that expression. I mean, you've heard like, look into my eyes, my love is written for you in my eyes. So she's saying, and what you don't see in his face, that he's handsome and beautiful and wealthy, look in his eyes. He's a good person. What you don't see in the physical, look for the emotional. And that's what she's asking Juliet to do. So those are the 8 lines that you have to do. Unfortunately, this is why they would never let me be a math teacher here. I miscounted the lines. It should only be for this one entry that you'll have to do an additional yellow and an additional blue on the back. So you'll do line 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, and then line 92, you'll just have to do on the back because I ran out of room. Okay, so sorry about that. So what you're going to do right now is start copying down your quote, and how you'll always start a loyalty journal is by, you'll see, okay, this is the one she's assigning today. It's all in order, 1.3, 85 to 92. So you'll find 1.3, 85 to 92 in your book. You'll go to the lines and you'll start copying them down. And remember, it needs to be exactly as it's written in the book, and you need to do the line breaks where they are in the book, so that however many lines there are also how many are here. Remember, and you already color coded this, so it should be obvious, but you're skipping a line, right? You're putting the quotes where it says Q, because the T is for what? The translation. That's your blue. So it'll look like this, right? But it'll be for the quote 1.3.85 to 92. If you are group 3, you're going to really have to keep yourself to the schedule. And every time I assign an entry, you're going to want to really make sure you get it done as soon as possible, because I won't be able to stamp your entries. You guys, I'll be stamping your entries. So next time I see you in person, you'll have 2 entries done, because next time I see you on Zoom, I'll be assigning a second. So you will have stamps to prove that they were turned in on time. And if you don't turn them on time, the most credit you can get is half credit, which is technically an F. So you don't want to get into the habit of that. So right now, in these last 10 minutes, you're copying down the quote that's 1.3.85 to 92. That's the quote where Lady Capulet says, "What say you? Can you love the gentleman?" So I'll put that information there too. And then once you've done your copying of the quote, you will do your translations and all the colors. Yes, and that would be all on one line next to the word, the letter Q. Yes. Oh, yes, definitely. So skip past all the like this stuff and all the very so yes, I can ask and listen. So you'll see that we have there's 5 action codes and there's 5 teams per act. We ask 1 and 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 4 2 and 4 and ask 1, 2, 3 as well. That would be line 85 to 92. So then right here, and then and then we'll talk again, line for line, keeping it exactly how it's written out there. And here, yellow. It's black. So here, what they what it is, and then you can put it in the so you see that there is a line that goes back here. Oh, they can get it. Yeah, and we're just looking for keep working, it's not still time, it's 19. You need to get the entire quote down right now before you leave. You don't have a book, you can borrow mine. Well, you're the one who knows, you have a book. Page 39. Okay, well, how about this, I'll find the quote and I'll put it up here so you guys can all work. What say you? Think about it.
So what are you saying?
Well, what are you saying? Is she asking her daughter what she's saying, or is she asking her daughter what the answer is?
So what did you say? How would I translate that then?
So think about, so one, we were literally just talking about, I'm going to say it again so that other people can hear too. So I'm not just going to answer you because I know that other people are also wondering. But okay, this is the quote that you guys are using. No, sit. Siéntate, por favor. Gracias. Thank you. Okay, so what is going on right now is that Lady Capulet is asking asking Juliet if she would be down to meet Paris, right? And she is wondering this because she's hoping that they are going to get married, because she says to Juliet, like, by the time I was your age, I was already married. Like, let's go. And so you have to just think about not trying to translate line for line, but translate the meaning. She goes to Juliet, he just told her all about, right? He just told her all about this guy. And she says, what say you? You love the gentleman. What do you think? How does it sound, right? You think you can love him? You interested? He sounds cool. And then she says, this night you shall behold him at our feet. Tonight, who are you gonna see? You're gonna see him. Where? At the feast, which a feast is like a party, right? So tonight you're gonna see Paris at the party. I want you to read over the volume of young Paris's face, right? Read over the volume, right? Take a look, give him a good look, right? Read over the volume, right? Look at every inch and find delight writ there with beauty's pen, and see how it's almost like you get happy when you see his face. It's almost like God had a pen that was made just for beauty, and he drew Paris' face, right? You have to find a way to put it into your own words, but you don't have to translate it word for word. You're just keeping these ideas, right? And see how God made him the most beautiful specimen. Examine every line of his face and see how they all go together. And what you don't see in his face, look in his eyes. You'll find the rest, right? What you don't see in how handsome he is, look in his eyes and you'll see that he's a good person. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be formal. It's just imagine how like your mom would talk to you. What do you think? Want to meet him? I mean, look at him. He's cute. His features go well together. He's rich. You don't see it in his face. Look at his eyes. He's a good guy. Just talk casually. Well, since I don't see a lot of writing by the guys, not Joey, you're writing, but you guys are not, you three. I'm going to remind you of the last bit of your homework, which I've actually made extra credit so that it can kind of not be too worrisome. The last piece of homework.
The first one, it says that failure to love the government is still my hand. Next time is the other soul that includes you.
Joey's doing great.
Oh, yeah, no, open part. I got confused with it. The first time, if that's it.
And then the extra credit is just to meet the artist, because I realized you have to get time to do the class. So if you guys want to do the meet the artist, I'll do the upgrade to it, and I'll give you extra credit. This you can kind of do on your own time, but it's next week kind of in your own time. That's the long. He's not looking out tonight. No, he's not supposed to be, I thought. Jaden. You get extra credit if you want to. Not the next week or so, like take your time, kind of do it when you have your own time.
I know.
So your homework is to, in the next few weeks, bring in the meet the artist so that you can get some extra credit for that. And then also to do the loyalty entry for 1.3.85 to 92. And there's no bell, so you guys can pack up and go. Oh, you can just leave them on your desk. If you just put them in the bag, I'll clean it up from there.